King Kong is easily one of the most recognizable monsters to ever exist. He's probably the only one who rivals Godzilla when it comes to popularity. And seeing as I made a video ranking the Godzilla movies a while back, I think it's only fair that I do Kong as well. Now the difference between Kong and Godzilla is that Kong has way less movies, only 12 officially in fact, though there are a bunch of unofficial ones that were released during the time that the rights to the character were in dispute. But I won't be counting those ones as they are unofficial. So with that being said, let's rank all 12 official King Kong movies. Number 12. Up first we have The Mighty Kong. Released in 1998, The Mighty Kong is an animated musical adaptation of the King Kong story. Now, it's not exactly a bad movie, but it does have a huge flaw. The pacing. This movie's pace takes a huge turn once we meet Kong. All of the scenes before Kong's appearance have a pretty decent pace, but when Kong is finally introduced, the pace gets turned up to 11. They completely speed through the rest of the movie after Kong's introduction, and honestly it left me confused as to what was actually happening in some scenes. So for that, it comes in last. Number 11. Up next we have Kong Return to the Jungle. This is another animated movie, only this time it's set in the Kong the Animated Series universe. That's one of the reasons I put it above the last entry. The pacing is also much better. I will say, however, that the animation is not the best in this movie. It looks more like it belongs in a video game based on the series, rather than a movie. There's really not much else to say about this movie. It's just kind of there, and it's just meh quality. So with that, let's move on. Number 10. In the number 10 spot, we have Kong, King of Atlantis. Another movie set in the Kong the Animated Series universe. This is easily the best of the three animated movies. Unlike Kong Return to the Jungle, King of Atlantis uses traditional 2D animation, which is one of the reasons it's better than its sequel. The pacing and characters are still good too, and of course, just like in the show, Kong is awesome. Out of the three animated movies, this is the one I recommend the most. Number 9. Up next we have Toho's second King Kong movie, King Kong Escapes. And even though you might think this is a sequel to King Kong vs. Godzilla, it's actually not. This is its own standalone film. Though the same Kong suit was used for both movies, the head was altered for King Kong Escapes. This movie even gives Kong his own version of Mechagodzilla, Mechani Kong. This is the weaker of the two Toho movies, and in some scenes it shows. But it's still a fun movie in a silly way. Number 8. Next we have King Kong Lives. This is the sequel to the 1976 remake. However, it wasn't released until 10 years later in 1986. This isn't the best movie in the franchise, and it shows. And what the fuck is up with this shot? I know she's tending to a wound on his leg, but come on, look at his face. And the camera angle, we were all thinking the same thing. This movie almost single-handedly killed the franchise. And it wouldn't be until Peter Jackson's 2005 remake that Kong would be back in a good movie. Number 7. And at number 7 we have Son of Kong, the sequel to the original. This was released only a few months after the original, and you can see that it was rushed at times. Now, it's not a bad movie, it's just in the position of being between the bad ones and the good ones. I actually enjoy this movie. And if rumours are to be believed, then the next movie in the Monsterverse is going to be a remake of this. But for now, we'll just have to enjoy this one. Number 6. And coming in at number 6 we have King Kong, the 1976 remake. This is actually a pretty good movie, and despite having some bad effects in places, it managed to entertain audiences and become a box office success. Also, the Kong suit was designed by legendary special effects artist Rick Baker, who also wore the suit. However, for every decent King Kong suit, there is also a less impressive, life-size King Kong animatronic. And the animatronic was so bad, it only had about 5 seconds of screen time. Other than that, this is an enjoyable movie, and I recommend it. Number 5. And now we move into the top 5. And we kick it off with King Kong vs. Godzilla. If you've seen my Godzilla movie rankings, you know that I love this movie. This movie done everything right with Godzilla and Kong, so you're probably wondering why it's down in 5th place. Well, what deducts some points from it are a few stupid things. The first being those annoying news segments in the American version. While the original Gojira did have American actor Raymond Burr added in, he was at least right there in the middle of everything that was going on. This movie just has it for exposition, as if we're too stupid to understand what's going on. The other, well, I'll just leave this image here. Flaws aside, this movie is amazing, and I definitely recommend it. Number 4. And now we have Peter Jackson's 2005 remake, King Kong. I put this movie above King Kong vs. Godzilla for a few reasons. Firstly, this is the King Kong movie I grew up with. Also, the special effects are beautiful, apart from the Brontosaurus stampede. This is also a very faithful remake that spawned an even better video game. For the longest time, this was the definitive King Kong movie after the original, and it still holds up to this day. It's definitely one that I recommend. Number 3. Up next we have Kong Skull Island. The second movie in the Monsterverse, Kong Skull Island is amazing. With outstanding special effects, likable characters, and most importantly, a badass Kong. Another thing that makes this movie so good is that it holds on the monster action. The Godzilla movies in the Monsterverse seem to have a habit of cutting back and forth between the monster action and what the humans are doing. In Kong Skull Island, however, there's a nice balance of the two. And some of the shots in this movie are spectacular. My favourite being the shots of Kong standing with the sun behind him. This is a very fun movie, and I highly recommend it. Number 2. In second place, we have Godzilla vs. Kong. This movie is perfection. From the action to the effects, pure gold. And yes, it was 100% snubbed at the Oscars. As I said before, this movie saved cinema in 2021. Seriously, if you haven't seen this movie yet for whatever reason, you need to. It is so entertaining. I mean, what more could you want when you have Godzilla and Kong beating the shit out of each other? Seriously, the fights in this movie are brutal. This is probably the movie I recommend the most out of this list, because you won't be disappointed. Number 1. And the number 1 greatest King Kong movie of all time is, of course, King Kong, the original 1933 classic. Wowing audiences with its groundbreaking special effects, King Kong became an instant classic. The movie had such groundbreaking effects that in 1991, King Kong was officially inducted into the National Film Registry, which had been established 2 years prior. This meant that it was to be preserved in its original form for future generations to enjoy. It's also the movie that inspired one of Kong's greatest rivals, Godzilla. King Kong is considered one of the greatest movies of all time, and it's easy to see why. If you haven't seen the original in all its glory, then you need to. It is without a doubt the greatest King Kong movie, and one of the greatest movies of all time. So there you have it, those are my rankings of all the King Kong movies. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree with my rankings. So with that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. I will see you for another video in the future, and I'll leave you with a recap of the rankings.